My name is Colleen Mingarelle, and I am here to help with the volunteer program for literacy. You might be thinking, why do I need to watch someone do a read aloud? And I just want to say that when Jackie and I were speaking about how to approach this program, we decided that learning with literacy and loving literacy was the approach we wanted to take. There's a lot of research that shows the more language that children are exposed to, the better they do at school. And that's how you get language to children who don't always have the use of English in their home. You'd be surprised how many words and phrases that children don't know if they're not speaking English all the time. So I chose a book called The Quiet Place. What Jackie and I would like to do is we'll get a list together of the books that we'd like you to share and supply you with the books, and also an idea of where to go with the book. There's lots of approaches you can do with literacy and how to talk about a book. And we're trying to teach the kids how to think about what they're hearing. So A Quiet Place, I have some words here that I'm going to go through with my students just to make sure that they understand what they mean. And then we'll run into them through the story. Hopefully that will help them think about what's being said. And The Quiet Place, also the theme of this would be, I'd like you to be thinking about your own quiet place. And if you have one, I want you to think about a connection that you could make to this story and this little boy. I know I have a quiet place, but I'm not going to tell you where mine is. Okay? All right. One more thing. I like to let my students talk to each other instead of raising their hand and talking to me. What I do is I sing when I want them back to me, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways. Teachers will go 1, 2, 3, and the kids will come back. So you decide how you're comfortable. I'm the teacher that sings. So, all right, you ready? Okay. So A Quiet Place, there's a lot of words that I thought maybe we should go over, okay? So shrieking and blaring. What might that mean, do you think? Don't tell me. Talk to each other for a minute. Shrieking and blaring. Back to me, I need you back to me, please. Who can tell me something they heard that sounded like might explain what's shrieking and blaring? What do you think, Libby?
I heard
Yelling. So would it be loud?
Yeah.
How many of you think loud? Okay, good. Because shrieking and blaring, I think that does mean, or at least something might be loud. Doesn't seem like something like this, does it? Would this be a good quiet place? Probably not. Mansion. How many of you live in a mansion? Oh, me neither. Okay, a mansion is a huge fancy place, almost like a castle, without servants. And galloping, that's not a word we use every day. Galloping. Galloping. Can we gallop?
Yeah.
I suppose we could. We'd look kind of funny. What animal do we think of when we think of galloping? What do you think?
A horse.
Agree, disagree?
Agree.
Horse. A horse will gallop. Dweller. Let me use it in a different way. I'm going to dwell through the forest. Talk to each other for a minute. Dwell. Back to me, I need you back to me, please. Who heard something that might be something like dwell?
Like wandering about, flying somewhere.
Wandering about, walking. Any other ideas that are different than that? Alexander?
Walking slowly through the forest.
Walking slowly, could be. Were you on the way of walking?
Yeah.
Okay, probably doesn't mean sprinting. I don't know though. We'll run across it in the story, and I bet the way it's used will help us know if it means sprinting or just walking. Okay? Imagination. I know you all have one. Yeah, and imagination just means something that you think in your head, right? And, wow, renovation. That's a huge word. Renovation. What do you think, Alexander?
Like you could renovate a home and make it look nicer.
Okay, you said renovate a home and make it look nicer. Take out renovate. How would you say that without using the word renovate? Do what to a home?
Make it a better place.
How? By smiling?
By using, putting new stuff in.
Putting new stuff in it. So you could put new stuff in a home,
Redesign.
and redesign, maybe build, change. Okay, good, good. And, where's Carla? Carla, what is an idiom?
An idiom is when someone says something, but you don't really do it.
You don't do it or mean it, do you?
Yeah.
So if I say, that's not my cup of tea, am I talking about drinking tea?
No.
Probably not. What does that mean, it's not my cup of tea? Do you know? It's okay.
It's not mine.
It's not mine. Kinda. Keaton?
It's not my type of, like, game.
Not my cup of tea means it's not something I like or something I do. Has nothing to do with drinking tea. Okay? Jen?
Sometimes in Amelia Bedelia, she actually takes it seriously.
Amelia Bedelia does take it seriously, so Amelia Bedelia would get out a cup of tea. And we go, cuckoo. Alright, you ready? Okay, this is called A Quiet Place. It's illustrated by Dan Anderson, and what I really liked about this book, besides the story, was the pictures. They look real to me. And the pictures really help what the author is saying. And the dedication is to all who listen. I want you to be making your connection to your own quiet place. Sometimes a person needs a quiet place. Here's some words. A place to rest your ears from bells ringing and whistles shrieking, and grown-ups talking, and engines roaring, and horns blaring. I can just hear that in my head almost, horns blaring. And grown-ups talking, and radios playing, and grown-ups, well, even grown-ups need a quiet place sometimes. But it can be hard to find one. You have to know where to look. I'm looking at this picture, I'm thinking, I wonder if this is an old-fashioned story. This looks like an old-fashioned car to me. Ooh. You could look under a bush, a lilac bush, in your own backyard. And a bush is like a small tree, right? It's just green and short. When you crawl underneath it, all the sounds of the world seem soft and far away. And you can be a pirate who finds buried treasure on a desert island. A bush could be your quiet place. So what do you think he's using in his quiet place? His imagination. He doesn't really see a pirate there, does he? Until someone calls you to clean your room. Then you could look in the woods. You might find an old stump. See where that's cut? That stump is there? For a chair, or a mossy log for a couch, in a green mansion of shadows and sunbeams. So what is he imagining here in his green mansion?
That like he's on like a couch or something relaxing.
And is he in a little place? What did we say mansion was?
A big place.
A big, fancy place. So he's in a big forest mansion. I like his imagination. In a green mansion of shadows and sunbeams. It's not really quiet, of course. Blue jays scream warnings and wind sings in the leaves, but it feels quiet. And you can be a timber wolf, the gray ghost of the forest. The woods could be your quiet place. But if the woods are too dark and deep, you could go look by the sea. On a beach in the early morning fog, your footprints are the first of the day. The waves are roaring and the gulls are crying, but it doesn't seem noisy. And you can just be an explorer discovering the lost continent. He's using his imagination. The beach could be your quiet place. But if the beach is not your cup of tea, or your kind of place, you could look in the desert, where old man saguaro reaches for the sky and far-off thunderheads bloom like sky flowers over the mesas. Wow, I almost said mesas, but that didn't make sense to me as a reader. So I've heard mesa before when it comes to the desert. Think mesa. Something to do with sand and structures, maybe? Does anyone know the word mesa?
I think it was. Isn't it like something in the desert looks like this?
Flat?
Yeah, like flat like this, and it looks like a table. I learned something that was like that in second grade,
Okay.
and it was called the same exact thing, and it was like kind of a table thing.
Well, as a reader, here's what I'm thinking. Two things. Number one, I knew mesa didn't sound right. Number two, mesa, I've heard before, and I think has something to do with the desert. Later on, I might look that up, though, because I want to make sure. I think Genesis is right, but I don't know for sure. Okay? So, like sky flowers over the mesas. A cactus wren drops by for a visit, while a horned toad blinks in the sun. And you can be a Pony Express rider galloping. There's the horse that we said would gallop. Galloping through the Old West. The desert could be your quiet place. But if the desert is a bit too dry, I like to think what might come next. Make a prediction.
Your house in the back.
You could sit by a pond. A heron by the shore stands still as a tree branch. And if the water is so calm it looks like a mirror, then a frog plops from a lily pad and your face begins to wiggle, and you can be the world's greatest fisherman, reeling in a monster catch. What does that mean, reeling in a monster catch?
Like you're pulling.
I'm pulling it in. Reeling in a monster catch. A pond could be your quiet place. But if the fish aren't biting, you could look in a cavern. Oh, you could look in a cavern where every footstep echoes and the slow drip, drip of water builds new rocks that hang like icicles or stand like sculptures, where days and nights and weeks and years are all the same, and you can be a cave dweller in the lair of a saber-toothed tiger. A cave could be your quiet place. I was just thinking this. But if a cave is too cold and damp, what do you think, Keith?
Fine. I was gonna say that you said Delaware in it.
I said dweller.
I have no idea why.
You want to go back to dweller? Let's see. And you could be a cave dweller in the lair of a saber-toothed tiger. We thought it might mean walk slowly. Would it make sense to walk slowly in a dark, damp cave?
Cave dweller, cave walker.
Ooh, me like a cave walker. I wonder why the author chose to use words that we don't really know very well. What do you think?
Probably to get us thinking about it.
To get us thinking about it? I think you're right. I know that authors do things for reasons. Yes.
And he might think that it'll give us more feeling.
Maybe it enhances the feelings that we have. I think you're right. You think? Yeah? I like that word though, dweller. I wouldn't use it though. Like if I said, let's dwell down the hallway, I don't think I would think to use that. Maybe if I were writing a book. Okay, but if a cave is too cold and damp, let's see, cold and damp, I'm thinking someplace warm maybe? Let's see what happens.
Outer space.
Ooh!
Oh my.
You could climb to the top of a hill where clouds float by like ships. Oh, I love that. They float by like ships. Or alligators or elephants. So, you know, clouds that look like alligators or elephants, those big puffy ones. I love those kinds. On a hilltop, you can see a long way and think long thoughts about how and what and why. And you can be a mountain climber on the top of the world. A hilltop could be your quiet place. But, yes,
I have a prediction for the next place.
you what?
I have a prediction for the next place.
You have a prediction for the next place? Tell us. Antarctica? Because of the snow? That's what I love about books. You can predict, and if you're wrong, it's okay, because you're like, oh, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, I have a prediction.
His
Yep.
house.
You think it's going to end up in his house? Okay.
In
What do you
space.
think?
I just had to say something about the clouds. Like
Okay.
yesterday,
Uh-huh.
like when we were in line, Maddie and I were looking at the clouds pass by. They were just like passing by, and they looked like ships going by, and some of them looked like ducks.
Like ducks? Okay. I hear a lot of people making connections right now. I want you to share with each other if you've made a connection and what you think might happen next. Keaton thinks you're going to be in the Antarctica. Brandon thinks maybe his house.
Me too.
What do you think? Talk to each other just for a minute.
Under like
Hi. Come on in.
I see Antarctica.
No, I don't think it's a good one. I don't have a house because you said we're a quiet place. His house is like quiet. So it has to be like I have that.
Oh, I like that. You have a huge connection. All right, back to me, back to me. I need you back to me, please. I love what I just heard here. Actually, I loved a lot of what I heard, but I heard Emma. She thought that maybe she didn't have a connection. She's like, I don't know, I don't have a connection. And Yursi was like, yeah, me too. What did you say after that, though?
My room is my quiet place.
She said, my room is my quiet place. Oh my gosh, that's such a huge connection. I love it. Her room is her quiet place. Be thinking, what is your quiet place? I know I have one.
My room. I have a lot of quiet.
If your legs are too tired for climbing. Who said, oh,
Maybe it's the North Pole.
you could wait for a snowy day and lie down in a snowdrift. All around you, the falling snow whispers. Shh. Oh my gosh, I must feel it. Unless you've never been to a snowy place, and then you have no connection at all. So you can hear the snow whispers shh, and wraps the world in silence. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it breathing. Do they mean that? Snow is breathing. You breathe softly too, pretending to be a polar bear sleeping in a land where the snowy silence never ends. A snowdrift could be your quiet place. But if it's too warm for snowdrifts, I didn't think that, but what a cool idea. You could visit a museum
It is quiet.
where brass tigers and bronze lions stand silent guard over fabulous treasures. Every painting is a magic window that your own imagination can open wide and climb through. And you can be an artist, admiring your own masterpiece.
That's what I do.
A museum could be your quiet place. Here's that word. But if the museum is closed for renovation, which Alexander thought meant changing it, redecorating it.
Looking at
Yes.
It probably means like closed for good or something.
It doesn't mean closed for good. It means closed for a little bit because it's changing. Yes.
No, I think it's going to go to the North Pole.
You think it's going to go to the North Pole?
I think
All right.
Well,
Let's take our thinking and put it in our heads and see if we can't continue making our connections to what the author's trying to tell us. Okay? The author's trying to convey a meaning to us. I love that you're feeling it too. But if the museum is closed for renovation, I went back. Do you know why I went back? I went back because I didn't think it made sense if I started here. As a reader, I needed to go back and reread what I just read because I forgot what it was. Okay, but if the museum is closed for renovation, you could go to a secret corner of the library where the only people talking are between the covers of books. The only people talking are between the covers of books. Talk to each other for a minute. What in the world does that mean?
Yeah, there are people in the
Wait,
Yeah, the people in the book like to talk.
the only people talking are between the covers of the book.
Handed on the mirror.
Use
imagination.
Even talking in your mind.
Back to me, I need you back to me, please. Did the author mean that there are two people smashed between the covers of a book? No. Did anyone hear something that they thought might be what the author meant? Mia?
Genesis said that when she's reading a book, it kind of feels like she's in the book, and so she, like, the book is kind of like talking to her.
Does that make sense? When Genesis reads, does anyone else feel that way? You feel like you might be part of the book?
Yeah.
And there's talking in the book. All right, good. I like the way the author said that, though, because I hadn't thought of books that way in a while. Okay, so they speak so softly, you can only hear them in your head. Oh my gosh, that is reading, isn't it? You hear it in your head. Okay. As you read about forests and oceans and deserts and caverns and museums and 1,000 other things, a library could be your quiet place. But if the library isn't open yet, you could come home. Are you making a bigger connection now? Where's this person going? And clean your room and read your own books and think your own thoughts and feel your own feelings and discover the very best quiet place of all. The one that's always there, no matter where you go or where you stay. There's a surprise, it's not just a room. The quiet place inside of you.
But I was right.
You don't even need to be in your room. You could be quiet inside of yourself. All right. Did you like that? I really like this. I hope that you were able to make a connection to what the author was trying to say. As a reader, I like to ask myself, what was going on in this book? What was I supposed to take away? What I'm taking away, I'm thinking in my head about my big red chair at my house that's my quiet place. I love my chair. Seems like when I sit in my chair, I put earmuffs over my ears, but I really don't. All right, thank you so much. Thanks.